Welcome, family and friends. We have come together to honour and celebrate the life of Keith Duncan Walter Ford, OAM. What a fantastic piece of music, and how fabulous it is to have the Huffers and Puffers and friends to be here to help celebrate the life of Keith. He has received many accolades throughout his life. However, I think there's no greater accolade than the number of people who are here to honour and to celebrate his life. On behalf of Keith's family, we'd like to thank you for gathering here to celebrate, to share stories, to comfort one another in sadness, to honour his life, and to say your final goodbyes. My name is Warren Tate, and it is an absolute privilege to be delivering the service here today. Now, we are live streaming the service for those, unfortunately, who were unable to make it here today. So it's great and welcome for everybody who is watching via that live stream. Now, to commence today's celebration of life, members of the family will be lighting a candle in tribute so that those candles glow throughout the entire celebration of life service here today. Whilst those candles are being lit, may you all please think of your favourite memory of Keith whilst we light the candles. Family members, if you could come forward, please.
To bless death, O Lord, abide with me.
What a beautiful choice, beautiful piece of music, and a fabulous tribute. And may Keith shine brightly in all of you as we go through his celebration of life. I had the good pleasure of meeting with the family to go over his incredible feats and his life that he lived. And I'd like to share a snapshot of his life now, his life story, which will then be followed by eulogies. Keith Walter Duncan Ford was born on the 6th of December 1929. He was one of 9 children. He went on to marry June on the 19th of February 1955 at Holy Trinity Church. They had 4 children, Robin, Stephen, Deborah and Mark. There are grandchildren, Josh, Aaron, Zoe, Rochelle, Broden and Mia. And great-grandchildren, Rylan, Noah, Harrison, who happened to be born on Mum and Dad's wedding anniversary, Judah and Levi Duncan. Keith was born to Charles and Ruby Ford in 1929. He was born at home in the front bedroom at 13 Liverpool Street in West Coburg. Keith was the 6th member of the Ford gang. He joined elder siblings Edna, Phyllis, Ron, twins Elmer and Gwen. And in the coming years, Dorothy, Les and Lorna would complete the family of 9 children. Now, when Keith was born, it was at the early stages of the Depression. And at that age of 5 years, he started school at West Coburg Primary School in Reynolds Road, West Coburg. In Keith's early school-age years, he would bang tins and make a drum kit, singing along to himself. When he was 8 years old, his mother thought that she would like Keith to learn music in the school band. I suppose the rest is history from there. That was the beginning of his banding career, and more about that later from Rob's memories. Now, young Keith did not play much sport, but at the age of 14, his mates asked him to come behind the Lincoln Mills to have a game of footy. They formed a team called the Northern Stars. They played in the Melbourne Boys League for a year, and then they later joined up with the Northern Football League. In later years, Keith was connected with the newly formed Batman Football Club. Now, there was another love of football in the form of the Essendon Football Club. And I see a number of you wearing the Essendon scarves here today. And yes, I encourage you to sing along perhaps for that little ditty at the end of the celebration of life today. Now, this was the time Keith met up with his future wife, June Newman. They attended many after-game functions with other friends of the club at the local Scout Hall or nights out at the Progressive Theatre, the Plaza, the Grand Theatre and the Coburg Town Hall. Keith and June were engaged in 1950. Now, due to June's mum's passing, they delayed their marriage. Eventually, they married on the 19th of February 1955 at the Holy Trinity Church in Coburg. Now, during their courting days, Keith and June were given the opportunity to purchase the Newman family home at 1 Mantle Street in North Coburg. Keith and June soon became a family of 6. Robin, Stephen, Deborah and Mark were born over the next 7 years. Keith worked for the hardware company John Danks for 23 years as a storeman. Pay night was very exciting for the children. When he'd come home, there was always going to be a treat of fish and chips and, of course, the mandatory chocolate. I'm sure many of us have memories of those pay nights with our own families. In 1972, Keith left Danks and worked for Collins Olympic in Preston. When Keith came home from work, all 4 children would run outside and get a quick trip into the garage. Keith and June's married life together in Mantle Street was a very happy one as they enjoyed the success of the boys with their music. Deb learnt the piano and for a few years, but gave up during her HSC year. Deb went on to Teachers College and the boys completed their apprenticeships. When all the children completed their secondary school, Keith and June knew it was time to move to a brand new family home. And on August 17, 1977, also coincided with the day that Elvis died, they moved into their new home located at Aspley Court Mill Park, which became the new Ford Fortress. For the next 45 years, it was a place of wonderful family gatherings, a place for grandchildren to be babysat, and a place to return if needed. The door was always open. Keith retired in 1993 and formed the Huffers and Puffers. Now to share more memories and stories, would you please welcome Peter Caldwell with Keith's son's Rob's best mate, and Rob will be joining him.
These are Rob's words in remembrance of his dad through sport and his banding. I started playing cricket with my school, Coburg Tech, at the young age of 14. We would play on Saturday mornings. Dad would drive me there and stay the whole game, offering support and encouragement. By the time I was 16, I was playing against men for the Batman Footballers Cricket Club. Mum's brothers had played for this club and Uncle Graham was still playing. One particular game I remember we were playing against Coburg OST, who had a VFL footballer playing for them. They had a fast bowler by the name of Robert Walls from the Carlton Football Club playing, and he continued to bowl bouncers at me. I can clearly remember Dad hanging over the fence screaming, "Walls, pitch the ball up, he's only a kid!" Now, I know that was Keith 110% support for Rob, but part of me sort of says there might be some of the Essendon-Carlton rivalry in that, but anyway. Dad continued to follow my cricket career when I went to play at Brunswick Cricket Club in the 1970s. Dad would still come down to a lot of the games, even though we had to travel to places like Williamstown, Yarraville, Port Melbourne, and even Dandenong. Now for some of Dad's banding escapades. And I'll try and keep this short, as there are so many highlights over many years. Dad started with the Brunswick Municipal Band in 1968, working with the juniors and with his brother-in-law Ray Hines. We progressed to the senior band in 1971-72. In 1975-76, we actually won the Victorian B-grade championship held at Ballarat. The band at that stage was very young. In fact, Mark and Jeanette were only 13 years of age at the time, and Dad was the principal euphonium player. In 1978, the band was promoted to A grade, and in 1981-82, I distinctly remember the VBL Winter Contest, which was held at the Melbourne Town Hall. The band's own choice was a piece called Salute to Youth, and the second movement of this piece contained a difficult but beautiful euphonium solo. And I remember, in retrospect, Dad was having issues playing this section in rehearsals. On the day of the contest, in true Keith Ford style, he nailed the solo and nearly blew the roof off the town hall. I still remember this to this day. By the way, it might surprise some that in all my time, I never heard Dad practice at home, which surprises me actually. But in 1985, I joined the Preston Municipal Band, who were planning to tour New Zealand and compete in their national championships. As it happened, the band had a vacancy for a second baritone player, and I mentioned this to Dad, and he jumped at the opportunity. So Mum, Dad and my sister Deb travelled with the band throughout this trip for about 10 days. In 1988, the Preston Band toured the UK, and Mum and Dad were very excited to travel so far overseas. And for someone like Keith, who had brass bands in his blood, this was a trip that was a trip of a lifetime. The band performed at the Glasgow Festival and competed in the Edinburgh Festival contest held in the Princess Gardens, Edinburgh. Dad, myself and Steve also attended the British Open Band Championships in the Free Trade Hall, Manchester, which was a highlight, I believe, I would say, a real highlight of his life. We sat through 20 of the top bands in Britain playing the test piece called Contest Music. Somehow, Dad smuggled a tape recorder into the hall, I think in his bag, but this was definitely a no-no. But somehow, he got away with it. Where are we? Right. Dad was beside himself listening to bands like Black Dyke and all the other top bands in the UK. I remember Dad and I slipped out for a toilet break and just got back into the action in time to hear the 19th band, or Band 19, was band Rigid Containers, or for some who would remember, they're the old GUS band. This was fortunate because they turned out to be the winning band. When Dad and Mum returned to Australia, and Dad continued with the Preston Band till 1993, he then decided to transfer to Strathfield Say Band in Bendigo, which was conducted by his son Mark. And he continued to spend Friday nights teaching juniors at Brunswick. During 1996, Mark returned to Brunswick, which was now called Brunswick Moreland Band. Mark had recruited players from Melbourne Uni and the Victorian College of the Arts where he was studying, and Dad was very happy that the Brunswick Band was up and running again. And by 1998-99, we had won the National B Grade Championship. Dad was still playing euphonium to a high level at this stage, but I believe he finished playing in around 2001-2002. Dad retired from work in 1993, and now he had plenty of time on his hands, so he decided he needed another project. So, with the help of others, he formed the Huffers and Puffers Retirees Band. And then he set about organising concerts for aged care, nursing homes and retirement villages and other areas, community areas there. Late in 2022, he decided that the time had come for him to give up conducting, and he handed the baton to me. And although he would continue to say that he got the Khyber, he actually handed over. As you can see today, this band is still performing after 30 years, and I promise you we will keep it going, Dad. Dad, you had an incredible life in banding. You were still listening to brass bands right up to your passing. You are now with Mum. Rest in peace, Dad. I love you, Dad. I would like to make special mention to my sister Deb for looking after Dad for the past 7 years. You're a champ, Deb. And we all love you for what you have done. Also, a very special mention to my wife Sue and son Josh for their love and support, especially over the past 6 weeks. And you can say the rest, mate?
That's right.
Okay.
A big thank you to my mate here, Peter Caldwell, for reading this dedication to Dad. And he's the brother he never had. I'm the brother he never had.
Yeah, hear it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to, if I can, I won't take too long, just a small anecdote. In early 1980s, I was playing a Preston band, and that was my whole life, the Preston band. I wasn't interested in any other band going around, but I got a phone call from Keith. I didn't know much about Keith. I knew a bit about Rob, but Keith rang and asked me whether I'd help Brunswick out at a VBL winter concert again at the Melbourne Town Hall. I tossed up whether I needed another couple of nights rehearsal because Preston was rehearsing twice a week, but I knew Keith was an icon of the VBL and an icon of banding, but more importantly to me, I knew he was a good bloke, a bloody good bloke, so I said yes. And it was probably the best decision I made. And Keith, I never said to Keith, I never told Keith this, but I've reflected on it often, that if I hadn't... playing in that contest was the first time that I sat next to my mate here, and it was the...
Tell them about the fridge.
The fridge? Oh, well, the fridge was... Yeah, Preston Bandon was a lot older, and their fridge was filled with a lot of other stuff other than Slade soft drinks. But anyway, that's something I had to come to grips with. But anyway, this was the first time that I sat next to Rob, and it was the start of a very long and successful partnership, or a playing partnership. But more importantly, it was the start of a friendship from Diane and myself with Rob and Sue, and it continues strongly to this day. And Keith, I thank you for that phone call. I don't know why you picked me to ring, but I'm thank you did, because I don't know what my life would be if you hadn't have made that call. It would have been different. So rest in peace. Thank you.
And now to share some more memorable stories, please welcome Keith's daughter, Deborah.
I've got my back up here. Just want to say to Dad, how lucky I've been to have you in my life for 63 years. And I could share each and every birthday we had. Even our milestone birthdays were in sync. So ask us about Dad's 50th birthday party later. I could share stories about all those combined birthday parties, or the 40 years we went to watch our beloved Bombers play each week. Who would have thought that 9-year-old me, who hated football at that time, would turn into this crazy, loyal and passionate 54-year member of the football club. I think it's because I didn't get the band gene, I think. So that's amazing. And I thank you, Dad, for that. Even though a few weeks ago, when I came back from the football after a great Bombers win, and I said, I've got to go to the football again next week, Dad said, bugger the football! And he wanted me had to stay with him every day. He said I couldn't go to the football. I was bugger the football. But I know you didn't really mean it. But I really want to share about our life together for the past 7 years at Apsley Court. I always remember the day Mum said to me, as you were also in hospital, recovering from an operation, I think you had your gallbladder out there, and Mum was not well at all at that time. She said to me, Deb, it's time. You have to buy a new bed to go in the spare room, because I have to tell you about that old bed. That was nearly falling apart. And you're going to have to be our carers now. So that was what my destiny was, to look after Mum and Dad. But Mum also jokingly said, heaven help us if she passed on before you. And that's what happened. So, Dad, I tried to cook your Sunday roasts just like Mum. I tried to host all the family gatherings just like Mum. I tried to be just like Mum. You always called me the boss. I always say, talk to the boss. I'm the boss now. I was the president, the secretary and the treasurer of the Ford Fortress, because Dad had no idea. That's what Mum did. She did all that. He said, you do it, Deb. Okay. You never complained that I couldn't do things just like Mum. Well, you didn't say it to my face anyway. You were happy to watch your TV shows, and they were all the shows that I didn't like watching, play your music and attend your Huffers playouts. I did well, and I taught you how to use YouTube, Facebook and Messenger to occupy your time and stay connected. You never missed a good morning to Mum. You'd say, good morning, Mother. And in the end it was a good morning, aren't you beautiful? Or a night when you went to bed telling Mum all about your day. It always brought a tear to my eye. You were relatively independent until the last couple of years. Then the time had come that we actually needed help. So I want to give a shout out to two very special people who became your personal carers over the past year. That's Adrian and that's you, Helen. Thank you very much. But now it's time for you to come to be with my beautiful mum. And the time has come for me to move on with my life. I really did keep my promise, Dad. We were together again. And I just want to finish off with a verse from my favourite singer, one of my favourite singers, Ed Sheeran, just so you might have heard this song. It's actually in the booklet. I wish that heaven had visiting hours, and I would ask them if I could take you home. But I know what they'd say, that it's for the best. So I'll live life the way you taught me and make it on my own. And I will close the door, but I will open my heart, and everyone I love will know exactly who you are. Because this is not goodbye, it is just till we meet again. Because so much has changed since both you and Mum went away. Go Bombers.
An incredible support, Deborah, right through to the very end. Now, to share some more stories, we have the other son, another son, Steve, and supported by Aaron.
G'day all. ECC to help me. I guess as I look out to you, I should take this off because I'm a reader. So I've gone through my own rough time over the last few months, and that wheelchair is just there to conserve energy, so I can actually walk. And that was the family's wishes. Anyway, now I read. Dad, we haven't been quite honest with you over the last 4 weeks. We've told you a few little lies. Since the night we last spoke, I haven't been busy working hard at EPM. That's what we've been telling him, Deb. You didn't know it, Dad, but I've had my own health battles. I share this with you all because over the last few weeks I could not visit Dad in hospital. We didn't want to concern him or worry him, but I've also been in hospital with my own health problems and journey unfolding, but that's another story. One that you will need to purchase a book to hear about. Where's Rochelle? And there will be a bookshelf. It's quite amazing that I'm still here. And that, but that's another story. Two words come to mind when I think of my dad. The first is honour. What I want to do is honour my dad. as a husband, a father, a grandfather, a great-grandfather, and a good man. One that Jeanette and I have looked up to set an example to her own son, Azza, and daughter Michelle. If you notice that I'm speaking a bit funny, that happened a couple of weeks back. I couldn't talk last week. To honour someone is a clear biblical value that our family honours. In Deuteronomy 5:16 it says clearly, "Honour your father and mother as the Lord has commanded you, so that you may live long and your life may go well." Keep you on track, Aaron.
You're doing really well. You're doing really well.
He's a coach. He actually is. Honour is defined as showing esteem for one deserving of love and respect, one who has quality of knowing and doing what is morally right. I honour my dad because I love him and respect him. He was a patient, peaceful man. He always did what was morally right with love and respect towards his family and others. I honour my dad because he was a good husband to Mum. The way he cared for Mum in her last days, with the support of Deb, Rob and Sue and Mark, and the way he honoured her and loved her, even after she had passed. Taking every opportunity to speak well of Mum was a great example to us all. Where am I going now?
Right, going good.
The second word that comes to mind when I speak and think of my dad is presence. Dad was always there, always supporting us front and centre. He was always present. He taught me to play a brass instrument. He was at every band, every solo, wherever it be, local, interstate or overseas. He taught me how to play cricket and how to deflect the ball away from the stumps with my backside. Hang on, where's Glennie Ford? Where's Glenn Ford? I could say, yeah, Shane Warren would never have got me out. He was at every cricket game barracking from the sidelines, and he was just a present for both of my kids, supporting them in everything they did. I honour you, Dad, for your presence in my life. I thank you for being a great example to me. Thanks for helping me and guiding me to be the best husband, best father, and now the best grandfather I could be to Judah John and Levi Duncan. But most importantly, I thank you for being a good man. I will always do my best to pass on your example to my family. Love you, Dad.
Well, clearly those traits have been passed on to you, Steve. Well done. Very honourable man indeed. And now, we won't say the last son, but the baby son, to share some more stories and to honour the life of Keith, his son Mark.
You'll notice that I don't have any speeches written out, and there's sort of a reason for that. Is because Dad was an amazing spokesperson. I can see, extended family shaking their head here. Dad could talk the leg off a chair. So I figured I don't actually need a speech today, and that's not putting down the fact that the rest of my family did. I just wanted to try and be as equal, if not better than my dad at this. However, I will say I won't speak for 1 hour like he did on his 50th birthday party. He spoke for an hour, and I think Rob even fell asleep. Yeah. Firstly, a little thing to Mum. Just want to let you know, Mum, because Mum used to always say about Dad, and this is not by any means, as far as it's coming from me, this is an absolute compliment to my dad. But Mum used to say to Dad, Dad, you'll never die of a heart attack. And Dad didn't. He was a very laconic type of man. Nothing fazed him. Nothing ever fazed my father. In fact, the only time I saw my father cry was minutes after Mum died. Mum passed. Never cried. He had this unbelievable stoic nature about him that was just incredible. I don't know where we got all the emotional side from. It must have been Mum, I'm not sure. But anyway. But I'm actually here. I'm going to say off the cuff a couple of things. Dad was the consummate and quintessential supporter. That's it, full stop. Dad supported everyone, whether it be family, whether it be extended family, whether it be bands people, whether it be our sporting clubs that we're all involved with. Dad was the quintessential supporter of people, often done without any sort of accolade towards himself. It was always just there to support people. And I've got a couple of stories I want to tell about that. Rob spoke about sport. Yes, we did do sport when we were kids. We were mad, passionate sports people. We played football and cricket in our local competitions and so forth. When I played football, Dad was our goal umpire. Dad was our goal umpire. Now, I used to play in the forward pocket because I was quite small, so I was a rover changing in the forward pocket, so I'd often be down with Dad. And even though I had a coach for 7 years at the club, he wasn't my coach. My dad, the goal umpire, was my coach because he'd say, "Son, run over here, it's going to come over the back," and he's goal umpiring, believe it or not. And I'd get a push in the back and the umpire wouldn't give a free and he'd be yelling out, "That was bloody pushing in the back!" And he was the goal umpire. This happened heaps. Lastly, my cousin Shane is here. Shane, where are you? Shane's here. Stand up, Shane. I'm going to tell a story. I'm very sorry. I apologise. When I was in, I think, under 13s, I think it was, under 13s, our team played a team called Newlands Colts, which my cousin Shane was playing for that day. And Dad was goal umpiring, of course, as he always did. And I think by about half-time, Shane was playing on me, I think. Yeah, Shane was playing on me. I was playing in the forward line. And by half-time, I think I kicked 8 on you. Yeah?
I'll go for 7.
Yeah, I think by that stage I'd kicked 8. I'm not saying I was a great footballer, but, I think the team we were playing on today was struggling a little bit. Anyway, our full forward kicked 15. Right? So three-quarter time, the coach says, we're at three-quarter time and he's going through the team and he says, "Mark forward, back pocket." I kicked 8. It was just to give other kids a go. Dad was goal umpire that day. He was not happy that I was put down the back line, and he quietly let Herb Williams know, the coach, that he was well on his way to kick 20 that day, and you put him down the back line. Anyway, we won. I think we kicked 54 goals, and the other team kicked 1 point. Yeah. Anyway, but I guess getting back to the situation, Dad was just the quintessential supporter of all of us. Rob said before about driving around everywhere. I played Hatfield cricket. We would play all over Melbourne, from the west out to the east, and Dad always drove us everywhere. And then finally, Rob mentioned about Dad coming to Strathfield, say, to Bendigo, and Mum would mind the children while Karen and I went to band, and Dad then just said, well, I'll bring my euphonium, will I? Yeah. So Dad ended up joining the band for quite a few years, and but they would drive every weekend to Bendigo so that they could support us, here's that word again, support us in what we were wanting to do with our lives. They were there, and I say they, Mum and Dad. So Dad, you're an absolute marvel. Steve said it in one. Dad was just a remarkable human being. There's not a person that doesn't meet Dad that doesn't love Dad. The things he's done for people. One last story. Once upon a time at Brunswick Band, no names, no pack drill, but I remember some people getting upset with Dad for being a little bit late to band. And it's the only time I've seen Dad actually get his feathers ruffled. He said, but I've just picked up 7 people to bring them to band. Because that's what he did. He would go all over Melbourne. David Finnegan's here, up the back. He would drive all the way up to Jacana and pick up David, and then it'd be Reno or another person in the band. Robert Hare, you remember all this. And then he'd go over and pick Jeanette up over at Footscray in time to get to band practice. This is the type of man that we're honouring today. They're very few and far between, aren't they? Yep. So, Dad, we love you so much. You're an absolute champion. We're going to miss you, but I know you're in a much better place. And Mum right now must be just beside herself that you're coming back to support her. Thank you.
What a truly incredible life, and a great man indeed. I think the strongest words I took out of that was he was a marvel. And I think I heard Deborah say that the other night as well. Now, he certainly did live a full life. And as you'll see in the following montage of photographs, which will come up on the screen shortly, an incredible life. But to put some more context around those photos, I invite up Les, Keith's brother, and his son Glenn to share a story or two and to officially introduce the photo montage. Les.
Oops. Good morning, everyone. My brother, Keith Duncan Walter Ford, OAM. Our family was so proud of our brother on the day he received his medal from the Governor-General of Victoria. What an achievement. I am Les Ford, the second youngest of 9 children born to Charles and Ruby Ford. I am speaking today on behalf of my brothers and sisters, Edna, Phyllis, Gwen, Alma, Ron, who have all passed, along with now with Keith, and Dorothy and Lorna. We're also very close, and we're also very proud of our brother and loved him immensely. Keith
was named after his uncle Keith Ballantyne. His first middle name, Duncan, was after our grandma Jane, whose maiden name was Duncan. The Duncans were a famous family in Beechworth, Victoria. His second middle name, Walter, is after our uncle Walter Ballantyne. Others have spoken about Keith's great achievements and accomplishments, but I would like to talk about just a few of the many fond memories I have of our childhood. When Keith and I were kids, we played lots of different made-up games in the backyard, using our imagination and bits and pieces that we could find about the place. For instance, we played trains using bike chains. Dad had already opened them up into one long length. Sorry. Yeah. I'm just thinking about the effort. We would crawl on our knees and push the bike chains from the front gate, which we called the Coburg Station. Oops. All the way to the backyard until we reached the chook shed, which we called Flinders Street. And we'd do that for hours. It was great fun. We played cricket often, and I always wanted to bat, and we refused to give the bat up, always saying I was not out. Keith would get a bit mad with me, but would always continue to bowl to me. He was very patient and generous with his little brother. Like most brothers, we got up to a bit of mischief together. On a Sunday, we would go to church. Really? Only so we could join the boys' club, which they had on the Friday nights. Anyhow, one morning when we were walking home, we passed Progress Theatre. On the wall there was a chewing gum machine where you put the penny in and the chew would come down. There was a little thing like that with about 4 little chewies in it. And I said, I have a great idea. I told Keith my plan and he said, Leslie, we can't do that, it's daylight robbery. And I said, yes, Keith, it is daylight robbery. But still went along with my plan. Keith done all the work, drilled a small hole into a penny. Then we tied a piece of cotton onto the penny. All was now ready. We then went back to the machine. Keith put the penny in the slot and I held the cotton until we heard the penny hit the lever. Then the chewy gun dropped out. We continued to do that. We both filled our pockets with chewing gum. As we pulled the penny out, we were very pleased with ourselves, with what we had achieved. We didn't hear our Uncle Les Ballantyne come behind us, and he said, "What are you little blighters doing?" Of course, he had noticed. He took the penny from us and kicked us up the bum and said, "Go home before I tell your father." But Uncle Les didn't know our pockets were already full. However, we never did that again. Next door to our house, they had 2 great big fruit trees. However, the nice, ripe and juicy fruit was out of our reach. Even if we climbed on the fence, we couldn't reach them. So Keith came up with a plan. I found a jam tin that our dad stored nails in. Keith then screwed it onto a long stick. He tied one of Dad's razors onto another stick. Keith held the tin under the fruit and I cut it off into the tin. 2 geniuses at work. When I was about 9 years old, Keith tried his hardest to teach me how to read music. Sadly, over the years, I think I was his only student failure. As I just couldn't understand the music. Bands would understand this. Keith used to write the fingering on the music for me so I could at least play the tenor horn. We visited our grandpa Valentine, who was very ill. He was on his last days. Keith and I played Vienna City of My Dreams. Our grandpa clapped us for so long and said it was the most enjoyable music he had heard for a long time. Gee, I didn't think it would be so happy. We went out to the backyard so excited that it all went so well. That's when Keith said to me, "Leslie, you have the most beautiful tone." And I said, "What does tone mean?" He said, "You most probably wouldn't understand." And I didn't understand, and I still don't. But my brother's praise made me feel so proud. Keith went to the Brunswick Technical School where he met Jackie Newman. Keith spent a lot of evenings at the Newman household where he met June, and this is when they fell in love. I like Keith going to the Newmans most nights. After visiting June on the way home, he would ride his bike to the Chinese takeaway and buy half a dozen dim sims. I would always stay awake until he come home because he'd always save me one. What a generous brother he was. As a young fella, I had a job as a milkman that involved getting up in the early hours of the morning to start work. Sometimes I would sleep in and I would be running late to deliver the milk. So I used to wake Keith and ask Keith to come and help me, and he never refused me. What a brother. I think he loved being a milkman, or he just loved me. Keith was my best man. Keith was by my side as best man when I married Bev, and as godfather to my son Glenn. Keith and June's kids are very close to my heart. I was best man for Keith when he married June, and my sister Lorna was a bridesmaid. I could share a million more memories of my brother Keith. Those great days of going to the football together and later with our kids to cheer on the mighty Bombers. Those regular Sunday visits to the Mantell Street house where we would usually end up playing a game of cricket in the backyard. And just great fun we all had at the many, many family gatherings. Great memories of a great brother. Now, I haven't put this down, but I'll tell you about my brother when he was about 14 years old. And I think for about 3 years in a row, he entered the solo championship in Ballarat. And he always comes second to this one boy from Sydney. I was quite mad. I said, how could that happen every year? But he said, don't worry, he's the best player anyhow. Great memories of my great brother. I will finish up by saying, bravo, brother, my dear brother, I will miss you. Until we meet again, rest in peace. Keith, Duncan, Walter Ford, OAM. Thank you.
could almost see Keith there conducting, couldn't you? An incredible piece by the Huffers and Puffers and friends. Thank you so much. Now is the time for yourself to have a moment and reflect on those special memories and those thoughts that Keith means so much to you. As we listen to a next beautiful piece of music, a special time for you to remember Keith. because there was a piece by Rob and Mark and the Brunswick City Municipal Band. Beautiful memories. All right, and now for some more tributes and some short memories of Pop from the grandchildren. Josh, Aaron, Zoe, Rochelle, Broden and Mia.
Well, I'll see how I go short. It was a little bit tough, so I'll give it a good crack. I have many awesome memories of Pop. Memories of him kicking his stab passes to me out the front of the house, bowling his round arm slingers to me in the backyard, which I must admit I showed no mercy on, and I scored plenty of hundreds. May I say, I enjoyed my time in my 20s. I took music up a bit more seriously, like most of the rest of the family, and I used to travel to Heidelberg practices with him, and that was an awesome time. I'm incredibly blessed to have awesome parents, and I've had awesome grandparents who have always shown love, grace, and been ever present in my life in everything that I've ever done. Few memories. I remember Pop could be quietly passionate, unless you pushed his buttons, and Dad and I certainly did that plenty of times. When I was younger, I'd often be in a fair bit of strife. Normally, I wouldn't have done anything wrong, but I always ended up in strife. And Pop would chase me around the house or down the stairs, threatening to take off his belt and give me a whack. Well, I was a little too quick for him. I knew that at the time because I was like the Flash. Anyway. No, nothing changed. I vividly remember in 1992 coming back from Waverley Park, one of my first football games. I remember a man in a white van cut us off at the lights. And I remember Pop absolutely lost it, which is one of the first times I'd seen this. Anyway, he planted his foot down on his little orange Corolla and absolutely fanged it until he got side by side at the lights. Pop was yelling out all sorts of undistinguished things and giving him an almighty spray. Anyway, the late Auntie Elma decided to roll down the window and put her head out the window and start giving this guy the bird. I thought we were doomed. Auntie Deb was left to console me in the back seat. Trust me, this left more an impression on me than any belt or a whack could. My Pop wasn't to be messed with. Pop was a gentleman of his age. He often didn't show, especially men, a lot of affection. You normally just got the handshake. I used to watch a lot of the ladies get all their hugs, and Pop would always try and work his magic and get a sneaky kiss, to which he used to smile and raise his eyebrows at you. I thought to myself, that's it, I'm going to get hugs. Doesn't matter how awkward, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it's going to be, I'm going to give him big bear hugs every time I greet him and every time I say goodbye. Well, let's say for the last 15 years, I can't remember a time that me and my grandfather, when we greeted or said goodbye, didn't hug. Pop also had a reputation of being a Mr. Fix-It to Nan's amusement and some of the family members. I remember studying at RMIT Bundoora in my 20s, and I'd spend as much time as I could with him or even stay over during the weeks. I often would try and mow the lawn for Pop, and one of the first times I went out, I went to start the lawnmower. It didn't start. So I walked inside, and Nan and Pop were sitting on their couch, and I said, Pop, the lawnmower won't start. He goes, that's because she needs a wet start. And I said, come again? I said, what's that? To Nan, just sitting in the corner, just shaking her head once again in dismay. Pop started his way out to the garage. Anyway, he shuffles through the garage and he goes and gets his T-handle super tool, which you take a spark plug out with. He then proceeds to get the spark plug and dip it in petrol. He then puts the spark plug back in and he says, now give her a start, son. Anyway, with one pull that cord, I got halfway through, it shot me 5 metres back, it went bang, smoke everywhere, and the smell and aroma of fumes of the petrol floating through the air. Pop walked over to me and he said, now son, don't you ever do that. I still to this point can't work out who was in harm's way because I was the one who started it and was going to go down with the lawnmower. I would often talk to Pop about his life, in which he didn't really share a lot of deep conversation with at times or take credit especially. I would say to Pop, you're a pioneer. You created the Huffers and Puffers with your mate. I said, Pop, you're an inspirer. You've taught many people to play brass instruments and they've taken up for love or for a job. I said, you've even got other retiree bands starting up that have taken the original concept. I'd often say to him also, I said, you're an educator. You've taught so many young people brass music and done it for pretty much nothing. I also said to him, you're a marketer. You create ads, you create flyers, business cards, and you do cold calls to try and get more jobs. I said, Pop, you're an administrator. I said, Pop, I said, you've organised brass bands, you've organised football clubs. I said, you've organised stuff in the lodge. I said, you've even been part of the VBL where you've done process logistics and whatever else that entails. I said, Pop, you're also a band director. Sorry. I said, Pop, you're also a band director. I said, where you've put your spin on music for the players and also for the listeners. To which Pop all responded with, am I? I don't think so, as. Says a lot about him, and it's so true. It became obvious to me that Pop was a man of action, a man who made things happen quietly in his way. He may not have had all the qualifications the world suggests that you should have, but my Pop achieved a lot in his life, and he did it with a quiet humility. One of the greatest thrills of my life was when my second youngest child came along. His name is Levi Duncan, deliberately named in honour of my Pop. I knew he was absolutely thrilled about this because he never called Levi Levi, he only ever called him Dunk, Duncan or Dunks. Nan and Pop, thank you for always being present. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for showing grace, no matter whether I won, lost, was good or I was bad. Thanks for being the greatest grandparents that anyone could ever wish for. I love you, Nan and Pop.
I have to follow that. Great. Thanks, Aaron. How blessed we are to have known and loved Keith Duncan, Walter Ford, OAM. How blessed I am that I get to call him Pop. Obviously, we know Pop loved brass bands and footy, but I'll always remember Pop as one who was passionate about his family. Some of my favourite times spent with Pop in recent years have been sitting in his company, listening to him share stories about his upbringing, our family heritage, and about Nan, whom he loved and missed so much. Pop loved to share stories with us, and we loved to hear them. My dearest Pop, I will treasure our conversations forever. I have so many special memories I could share growing up with Pop, but it's the seemingly insignificant things that come to mind most. Like the way he'd catch huntsman spiders inside the house with a jar and release them in the garden. He'd never kill them. Those huntsman spiders always came out whenever I came to stay. I'd be hyperventilating and refusing to go to sleep, but Pop was fearless, and that gave him hero status in my eyes. And let's not mention the spider-infested shed in the backyard that he spent so much time in. If I was feeling really brave, I'd poke my head inside the door to see what he was up to. The spider webs in that shed rivaled that of a scary movie. Like I said, hero. Or the yellow flashlight he would always pull out to escort us down the driveway, even if it was barely dusk. And I'm not even sure why. I guess it was because he didn't want us tripping down the driveway on our way out. And I can still picture Nan and Pop standing out on the road, waving us goodbye as we drove off. They'd stay out on the road waving to us, right up until we turned the corner at the end of the street. But the thing that truly blesses my heart is that Pop was always there to support me. He would always show up for me. And Nan and Pop were always interested in the things we were doing. If it was important to us, it was important to them. I can't recall one significant event that Nan and Pop weren't present for. They were at every dance and singing concert or school performance, and they never missed a birthday dinner. My dearest Pop, I will always be grateful for your investment and involvement in my life, and I'll treasure the memories we made together forever. I will never not miss my Pop. He leaves a gap that no one else could fill. I'll miss the way Pop greeted me whenever I walked into the room. He made me feel special and valued. His face would light up like he was excited to see me. He'd call me Rocky, or beautiful girl, before giving me a hug. My dearest pup, I'll treasure the memory of your smile and your hugs forever. I promise to speak of you and Nan often, making sure our future generations of Fords will know you well, be thankful for you, and know the legacy that you built for us, that our family stands on the shoulders of a wonderful man. Thank you for all the memories, for the love you gave and the stories you shared. My dearest pup, I'll treasure you forever. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm not off to a good start already. Okay. We're so lucky to have so many amazing memories with our family. I'm gonna... Sorry. This usually happens at the end, not at the start. Okay. I'm going to try and talk about some of the funnier things rather than sentimental things, I think. All right, we have so many really funny memories to remember with Pup. And some of those things were when they used to come up to Bendigo on the weekends. They would sleep over and they'd always stay on this inflatable mattress in the lounge room. And my brother and probably me, I'm not sure if she was a bit little, we used to come out in the morning and we would sneak in as quietly as we possibly could so they didn't hear us. And then we'd either jump on them like a cannonball or play some sort of musical instrument really suddenly and loudly, as loud as we could, to wake them up with this big, massive fright. And they'd never growl at us. They'd always just welcome us into the bed for some morning snuggles. We continued to mess up their sleep as we got older too, when we started having sleepovers with the cousins at their house. We would be getting up to all sorts of things, playing pranks on each other and yelling out rude jokes down the hallway and singing at the top of our lungs and trying to sneak out to the lounge room. And poor Pop would have to get out of bed every 5 minutes to come and tell us to get back to bed and be quiet. But in the morning, we were never in trouble. We'd come out and he'd be sitting there happily eating his Wheaties and greeting us good morning, like all of that just didn't happen the night before. And we were always welcome back for more sleepovers every single time. He was so patient. One of the things that I didn't really think much of at the time, but now that I have my own children, I understand how patient he was. We would come on the weekends and he loved playing his band music on the stereo in his lounge room, and we would come and say, "Pop, can we put our music on?" And so he would always do it straight away, and we'd have some kind of combination of Spice Girls and Macarena and all kinds of things on, and we would stand in that lounge room and we would do the Macarena over and over and over again on repeat. And he would sit there and he would watch us do it on repeat. And now that I have kids, I understand the patience that takes to listen to the same song on repeat over and over again. And he did that for us every weekend. One of the really special things that I have to remember now is a few years ago when I was pregnant with my third child. When I told Pop that I was expecting a third child, and I said at that stage I didn't know it was he, but I said the baby was due on the 22nd of February. And straight away he said to me, "Oh, the baby will be born on the 19th, on mine and Nan's wedding anniversary." And Nan had already passed at that point, and I had a bit of a laugh and said, "Oh yeah, it could be, it's nice and close." And he said, "No, it will be. Nan will make it born on the 19th. It will be born on the 19th. Sure enough, when the 19th of February came, I wake up in the morning in labour. So I was so happy to ring Pop and share that special news on the day that was probably quite sad for him, that he called it. And my little Harrison was born on the 19th, as he said he would be, on Nan's and Pop's anniversary. I'm going to miss his smiling face, all of the stories that he loved to tell us about his childhood. We loved sitting there and listening to all of his stories. He loved to share them with my children as well. His beautiful hugs and just the happiness that he brought to every room. He always had such a big, beautiful smile. And he just brought such a bright happiness to every room that he was in. So give Nan a big hug, and my little Harry is very excited that he now gets to go and meet the Queen. So I love you, Pop, and thank you for all the beautiful memories that we now get to treasure forever. Give Nan a big hug.
I'll go next. Geez, the talking thing must have been a genetic. I don't know. This speeches are going on a while, aren't they? But no, Pop was incredible. I think hopefully if you get something out of today, it's just how much of a loving, kind, and caring, just beautiful man that he was. Patience and tolerance personified, I think, is what always comes to mind for me. When I got the brief of having the opportunity to speak, I was actually thinking, first of all, some childhood memories. And when I think of my childhood memories of being around Pop, I can't separate Nan and Pop. They were inseparable, and the way they cared for us together. My sisters and I were really fortunate to spend a lot of time around their home when we were growing up. They always made us feel at home. The house was our house when we were there. We were always so spoilt, and they couldn't do enough to accommodate us. There was always a pack of footy cards waiting for me every time I arrived on every second Friday evening. A few treats like some Fruit Loops and a tin of Nesquik in the pantry. We had complete control of the TV. My recollection is there was a little phase where I think they had Optus Vision back in the day in the 90s, and we had the Cartoon Network on 24/7. And then later on it was Rage and Video Hits on the Saturday morning. A special shout out to our Korn, Limp Bizkit and Slipknot phase that they had to endure as well. And usually a couple of inappropriately scary movies of a Friday or Saturday evening as well. Despite Aaron's recollection, and perhaps maybe for a cheeky younger sister, I don't ever really recall Pop ever getting angry or being even remotely disappointed in us, despite how mischievous we were at times. Just one extra little anecdote from the sleepovers was the time that Aaron and I put some M&Ms in one of the girls' beds and then turned the electric blanket on. But they were great with us, but Aaron did say we were smart, and I maintain that's still the case. But they loved us, and they loved us so much, and they showed that every moment they possibly could, and they really always went that extra mile to show how much they cared for us. I think I'll always think back fondly on those childhood memories at Nan and Pop's. Many of you will know Pop as the bandsman. He was a wonderful euphonium player, and in fact, actually, in that last piece of music that you heard that featured, obviously, my Uncle Rob and my dad, I think it was those euphonium sounds that you heard were Pop. Really, really special for all of us to hear that. But yeah, euphonium player, conductor, educator. I'm really proud that his passion for music has been passed through the generations and now onto me. It's almost a literal passing of the baton. It's a real honour to be continuing that work that Pop dedicated so much of his life to, the work that he was rewarded for with his OAM. I promise I'll stick at it, and Pop, I'll keep your legacy alive. Love you so much.
Hello. I don't have a speech prepared because I like to wing things, but you've heard a lot today about Pop being a remarkable person. And as Aaron and Broden have slightly touched on already, it took a remarkable person to deal with me when I was a kid. I, particularly Nan and Pop, for some reason, put them through terror. And the amount of times I got threatened with the strap are countless, but it was always immediately followed with, but I can't because she's my baby. Every single time. And every time he'd introduce me to someone, it would be, this is my baby. And that's something that my dad also does. So one thing that, a couple of things, I guess, I didn't inherit the banding or the Essendon gene. I'm probably one of the only, maybe Rochelle and a little bit of Josh as well, the only ones in this family that, I cannot stand football and I'm so sorry. But while Pop and I never connected on the brass band side of music, we had a little music ritual of our own. And that was at 5:30 a.m. every single Saturday and Sunday morning that we were at their house. I would sneak into their bedroom and as loudly as I could wake them up. And then Pop would put on, they had this like tape player on their bed head, and Pop would put on this old-timely 1920s to 40s Disney tape that he had, and he would conduct me singing along to, probably awfully, singing along to these 1920s and 30s and 40s Disney songs. And I remember his absolute favourite was Zippity Doo-Dah. And it's probably one of the only ones that I can still listen to this day, despite the fact that I do think that it is a terrible song. But again, while I didn't inherit the football and band gene, one thing that I did get a big love on that actually originated from Pop was really trashy crime TV. I remember there was this one day that my friend Katrina, who used to live next door to Nan and Pop, and I were being really, really terrible and loud and probably working their last nerve. And Pop said to us, come and sit down and watch this show with us. And we're like, we don't want to watch some old British show. That show was The Bill. And as soon as I sat down and watched that show, I was obsessed with The Bill. And that's a love I've carried to this day, and every single time we go over, we would have a ritual. We would watch The Bill, we would watch the third watch, and we still did that every time we went over as an adult. He'd put The Bill on. So that's something I've still carried with me to this day. I love that. Last year graduated from university with my Master of Criminal Law, and I feel like that came from Pop's initial love of The Bill and forcing me to watch it that day that I was being really naughty. So yeah, I've had so many amazing memories with Pop, and I'm sure that there are many here that I are probably too inappropriate to say because I was such a naughty child. But I just want to say to Pop and Nan, thank you so much for putting up with me and never actually giving me the strap, because that does sound terrifying. And just always loving and supporting our entire family the way that you did. And just lastly, I just want to say, on behalf of all the grandchildren, I'm sure, just thank you to Auntie Deb for everything you've done. We love you so much, and you've definitely given us some extra time with Pop. And
just pop, say hi to Nan for me and apologise for me stealing all her underwear and running down the street naked with it.
What impressive grandchildren. Very impressive, very well spoken, and Pop would be unbelievably proud of how you spoke here at this incredible celebration of life. Keith obviously loved his family, and he loved June more than anybody else on the planet. So the following montage of photos, accompanied by a beautiful piece of music, shows Keith the family man.
Come and gone, I hope I've lived
What a beautiful and incredible family man that Keith was, and it often gives us a time to reflect on our own families. And it'd be great to make sure that we pass on those hugs to our families when we see them, or if you've got them near you today. Because we're not promised tomorrow, so make sure that you tell them every day that you love them, you adore them, and give them a big hug for Keith. Refreshments will be served shortly. Make sure you stay around, share some stories. I'm sure as band members go on trips, it's not all about the music. I'm sure there's lots of shenanigans that go on. And those stories can be shared whilst you enjoy a sandwich or two and a cuppa and maybe even a beverage, a cold drink. On behalf of the family, I'd like to thank you all for being part of Keith's celebration of life. Your love, friendship and support through this time has been much appreciated, and I'd like to thank you personally. We've now come to the time of the service where we say our final farewells to Keith. These words we say to him to honour him and to say goodbye on behalf of you and the family. So if you are able, please, could you all please stand? It is with such sadness we say goodbye to you, Keith Ford, OAM. But we thank you for so much, all the little gifts that you have contributed to this life, and most importantly, the lives of others. We thank you for the tireless work and dedication to brass bands, and especially the huffers and puffers, and the many students that you mentored. We also thank you for your love of family, your passionate support for the kids and their sport, and your beautiful love of June. And you never stopped talking to her. Now you can be together again. We thank you for your patience, your loyalty. You really were a marvel. But most of all, we thank you, Keith, for everything you were and all that you gave. And may you now forever rest in peace with the certain knowledge that you were, are, and always will be dearly loved and terribly missed. May you rest in peace with June and play in that big band in the sky. Now we do have another special piece of music to be played, so if you could all be seated, please. Thank you.